Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Broad shoulders bore the burden of a heavy duty, shoulders belonging to a man whose focus never wavered as the day melted into night. The office, bathed in the glow of the computer screen, was a sanctuary of quiet determination. A diligent tap-tap filled the room, the sound of fingers dancing across a keyboard. Brown curls, rebellious in their nature, occasionally shielded eyes that had endured lengthy hours studying legal documents. "You're still here?" Maria, the custodian, spoke softly, hesitant to disturb the silent vigil. She stood in the doorway, her presence a gentle reminder of the outside world. "There are cases to be won, Maria." The man's voice, though tired, held a resolute strength. His workspace, a corner office, was a testament to his success. Diplomas and accolades adorned the walls alongside abstract art, each stroke a symbol of prestige. The desk, polished to perfection, bore an engraved nameplate: Pablo Reyes, senior partner. Pablo, tired of the constraint, began to loosen his structured world, starting with the removal of his tie. "Meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. This one's big." Pablo's stomach tightened. Harrison Fashion Group represented nearly 30% of the firm's annual billing. Whatever legal trouble they faced would command full attention from the partnership. He closed his laptop and slipped it into his leather messenger bag. The drive home to his downtown loft took 20 minutes through empty streets. The sparsely furnished apartment reflected a life dedicated to work rather than personal comfort. Pablo hadn't bothered decorating beyond the basics since his divorce 3 years ago. Morning arrived too quickly. Pablo chose a charcoal gray suit with subtle pinstripes, a light blue shirt, and a burgundy tie. His morning routine never varied. Shower, shave, dress, coffee, review notes, leave. Efficiency above all. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy when Pablo arrived. 6 partners sat around the gleaming table while Richard paced near the windows overlooking the city skyline. "Finally," Richard said, motioning Pablo to an empty seat. "Harrison Fashion Group is facing a discrimination lawsuit. A former employee named Gabrielle Torres is claiming wrongful termination based on gender identity discrimination." Richard slid a folder across the table. "Torres is transgender, started transitioning during employment. Claims they fired her after she began presenting as female." Pablo opened the folder, scanning the complaint. "What's Harrison's position?" "They're claiming performance issues unrelated to gender identity," Richard replied. "But their documentation is thin. The timing looks suspicious." "Who's representing Torres?" Pablo asked. "Elena Vasquez," Richard answered. "She's built a reputation on discrimination cases. Never lost one that went to trial." Pablo knew the name. Vasquez had a methodical approach that made her formidable in court. She built cases like architectural structures, logical, solid, virtually impenetrable. "We need you to lead on this, Pablo," Richard continued. "Your record with employment law is unmatched, and frankly, we need our best. Harrison doesn't just want to win, they want this to disappear." "I'll need to understand the transgender perspective," Pablo said. "This isn't just about law. It's about lived experience. If we can't speak to that authentically in court, Vasquez will destroy us." Richard nodded. "Do whatever research you need. Harrison's approved an unlimited budget. Just fix it." The meeting adjourned, and Pablo returned to his office with the case file. He spent hours reading about transgender workplace issues, discrimination patterns, and relevant case law. By evening, he had filled a legal pad with notes, but felt no closer to understanding the human element. The phone rang. Pablo recognized the number of Harrison Fashion Group's CEO.
Mr. Reyes, Charles Harrison here. Richard tells me you're handling our situation. Yes, sir. I'm reviewing the case now. Good. I want to be clear. This can't drag out. The brand can't afford negative publicity. Settle if necessary, but make it go away. With respect, Mr. Harrison, I need to understand what actually happened before determining strategy. If your team discriminated— We didn't discriminate, Harrison interrupted sharply. Torres wasn't meeting sales targets. The timing is unfortunate, but not illegal. I'll need to interview everyone involved. Of course. My assistant will arrange it. Just remember, discretion is paramount. After hanging up, Pablo stared at the wall. Something felt off about Harrison's tone. Too dismissive, too certain. Experience had taught him that cases were rarely as straightforward as clients presented them. At home that night, Pablo searched online for resources about transgender experiences. Articles and videos provided clinical information, but nothing that helped him truly understand what Torres might have experienced. An advertisement appeared on his screen. Understanding Gender Identity. Private consultations with Jamie Stevens, professional image consultant and gender expression specialist. Pablo hesitated, then clicked. The website was professional, featuring testimonials from clients who had worked with Jamie for various reasons. Some transgender individuals, others actors preparing for roles, and even attorneys building cases. Before he could reconsider, Pablo sent an email requesting a consultation, explaining his need to understand transgender workplace experiences for a case. The reply came within an hour. Mr. Reyes, I'd be happy to meet. My office tomorrow at 6 p.m. Jamie. The address was in an upscale area downtown. Pablo confirmed the appointment, unsure what to expect but desperate for insight that books and articles couldn't provide. Jamie's studio occupied the top floor of a renovated industrial building. The waiting area featured comfortable furniture, fashion magazines, and framed photographs of diverse clients in various styles of dress. Mr. Reyes. A warm voice called from an interior doorway. Jamie Stevens was tall with wavy auburn hair and an easy smile. Her emerald green wrap dress complemented her figure, and subtle jewelry added polish to her professional appearance. Thank you for seeing me, Pablo said, extending his hand. Of course. Please come in. Jamie's consultation room included a sitting area and what appeared to be a styling section with mirrors, clothing racks, and a privacy screen. So, you're working on a discrimination case involving a transgender employee, Jamie began after they were seated. Tell me what you're hoping to gain from our consultation. I need to understand what my client doesn't, Pablo explained. A perspective I'm missing. Their former employee began transitioning during employment, and shortly after she started presenting as female, they terminated her. Jamie nodded thoughtfully. And you believe understanding the transgender experience might help you determine if discrimination occurred? Yes, but more than that, I need to understand it to adequately represent either side. If my client discriminated, I need to advise them properly. That's refreshingly ethical, Jamie said. Most attorneys simply look for ways to win regardless. Winning without understanding is just getting lucky, Pablo replied. Jamie studied him for a moment. Here's my suggestion, Mr. Reyes. Reading about transgender experiences is useful, but intellectual understanding only goes so far. Real insight comes from personal experience. What are you suggesting? A more immersive approach. I help many clients explore gender expression. Some who are questioning their identity, others who need to understand it for professional reasons like yours. Pablo shifted uncomfortably. You mean?
I'm suggesting that experiencing even a fraction of what your client's former employee experienced might give you perspective you can't get otherwise. Jamie's voice remained matter-of-fact, professional. It's about walking in someone else's shoes, literally. Pablo's immediate instinct was to refuse, but the lawyer in him recognized the value of first-hand experience. How many times had he told junior associates to visit accident sites personally rather than relying on photos? How often had he insisted on experiencing clients' products before defending them? What would that involve exactly? We would create a female presentation for you. Clothing, makeup, hair, movement coaching. You would experience what it's like to present as female in professional and public settings. Pablo ran a hand through his short brown hair. That seems extreme. So is discrimination, Jamie countered gently. And I'm not suggesting you transition, just that you experience a glimpse of what it means to present differently than you're accustomed to. The insights are often profound. After a long pause, Pablo nodded slowly. When would we do this? We could start now with some basics. See how you feel about it. Now? Pablo's voice cracked slightly. Just preliminary steps. Makeup, perhaps a wig. Nothing permanent, nothing public. Pablo checked his watch. He had cleared his evening for this consultation. There was no reason to delay, and every reason to gain understanding quickly. All right, let's begin. Jamie guided Pablo to the styling area, where she had him sit facing away from the mirrors. First, let's talk about your case name. When presenting female, what name would you prefer? Pablo hadn't considered this. I haven't thought about it. Your given name is Pablo. Would you like something similar? Paulina, perhaps? He shook his head. Something different, I think. Amanda? Jamie suggested. It has a professional sound to it.
Amanda,
Pablo repeated.
That works.
For the next hour, Jamie applied makeup with expert hands, explaining techniques while Pablo listened intently. She fitted him with a brown wig styled in a shoulder-length bob with subtle layers that framed his face. Ready to see? Jamie asked when she finished. Pablo nodded, his heart racing unexpectedly as Jamie turned the chair toward the mirror. The reflection startled him. The face looking back was unmistakably feminine, not in a caricatured way, but subtly transformed. The brown hair softened his features, while expert contouring had minimized his stronger jawline. His eyes appeared larger, more expressive. This is... Pablo struggled for words. Take your time, Jamie said. It's often overwhelming at first. Pablo studied her reflection. Something about the image in the mirror felt both foreign and strangely familiar. Would you like to try on some clothes? Jamie asked. I have selections that would fit your frame. Yes, Pablo heard himself say. I think that would help. Jamie selected a deep sapphire blue wrap dress from a nearby rack. Wrap dresses work well for most body types. This one's structured enough for professional settings, but comfortable for movement. Behind the privacy screen, Pablo removed his suit and dress shirt, keeping only his underwear. The dress fabric felt cool against his skin as he slipped it on. Jamie helped adjust it, showing him how to secure the wrap properly. Jewel tones like this complement most skin tones, Jamie explained as she added a simple pearl necklace and matching earrings. For professional settings, understated jewelry communicates competence without distraction. When Pablo emerged to view the complete transformation, The person in the mirror was unrecognizable as the corporate attorney who had walked into the studio hours earlier. Amanda stood there instead, professional, poised, feminine. "How does it feel?" Jamie asked. "Strange," Pablo admitted. "But not in the way I expected. It feels like discovering a room in a house I've lived in for years but somehow never noticed." Jamie smiled. "That's a common reaction. Now, let's work on movement and voice. Those are often the most challenging aspects for beginners." For another hour, Jamie coached Pablo on feminine posture, walking techniques, and subtle vocal modulations. By the end of the session, Amanda could move across the room with reasonable grace and speak in a voice that, while not perfectly feminine, avoided the deeper registers of Pablo's natural speech. "You're a remarkably quick study," Jamie observed. "Most clients need several sessions to achieve what you've managed tonight." Pablo felt an unexpected sense of accomplishment. "This has been educational, more than I anticipated." "Would you like to schedule another session? We've only scratched the surface." Pablo thought about the Torres case, about the need to understand not just the legal arguments, but the human experience behind them. "Yes, as soon as possible." "Tomorrow evening?" "Perfect." As Pablo prepared to change back into his suit, Jamie paused him with a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Before you change, I'd like you to sit with this feeling for a moment. Notice your reactions, your thoughts. This insight will be valuable." Pablo, Amanda, sat in a comfortable chair, hands folded in his lap the way Jamie had demonstrated. The sensation was unexpectedly peaceful. The weight of Pablo's professional persona seemed temporarily lifted. In this moment, as Amanda, there were no expectations to meet, no reputation to uphold. It was liberating in a way he hadn't anticipated. "What are you thinking?" Jamie asked softly. "I'm thinking about Gabrielle Torres," Amanda replied. "About how much courage it must have taken to transition at work, to show up one day as her authentic self, knowing the risks." Jamie nodded. "That's exactly the insight I hoped you'd gain." After changing back into his suit, Pablo felt oddly uncomfortable, as though the clothing no longer fit quite right. He scheduled the next day's appointment and left with a new awareness that followed him home. The next day at the office, Pablo interviewed Harrison Fashion Group's HR director and Torres's former supervisor. Their stories aligned superficially, but Pablo detected evasiveness in their responses about performance issues. "When exactly did you begin documenting performance concerns?" Pablo pressed. The supervisor, Martin Wells, shuffled through files. "Early February, I believe." "And when did Ms. Torres begin presenting as female at work?" "Late January," Wells answered, then quickly added, "But that had nothing to do with our concerns." Pablo made a note. The timing was damning. "Did you modify performance expectations or provide accommodations during her transition?" Wells frowned. "Why would we? The job requirements didn't change."
Because transition is often stressful and can temporarily affect performance,
Pablo explained, drawing on his research. "Many companies provide temporary accommodations." "We treated her exactly the same as everyone else," Wells insisted.
"That might be the problem,"
Pablo murmured. That evening, Pablo returned to Jamie's studio. This session focused on professional presentation, how to navigate office politics as a woman, the unwritten rules of female professional appearance, and the different standards women often faced in workplace settings. "When you enter a room as Amanda," Jamie explained while helping Pablo into a burgundy sheath dress, "you'll notice people respond differently. Some will take you less seriously initially. Others will scrutinize your appearance more critically. The brown wig from yesterday was styled slightly differently today, a bit more polished, with side-swept bangs that softened Pablo's forehead. Professional women often face a narrow bandwidth of acceptable presentation, Jamie continued. Too feminine, and you risk not being taken seriously. Too masculine, and you may face backlash for not being feminine enough. Transgender women navigate an even narrower path. Pablo absorbed this information while practicing walking in low heels, each session as Amanda provided insights that transformed his understanding of the case. After a week of daily sessions, Pablo suggested something more challenging. I need to experience a professional setting as Amanda, he explained to Jamie. Controlled, but authentic. Jamie considered this. I sometimes host networking events for clients. I have one tomorrow evening, professional women from various industries. You could attend as my guest. Would that be appropriate? I don't want to intrude on a space that's not meant for me. The space is for anyone sincerely seeking understanding, Jamie assured him. Your purpose is respectful and educational. The next evening, Amanda arrived at the networking event in a forest green wrap dress with 3/4 sleeves, the brown hair styled in soft waves that brushed her shoulders. Pearl earrings and a matching necklace completed the professional look. Remember what we practiced? Jamie whispered as they entered. Small steps, relaxed shoulders, hands at waist level, and smile, but not too much. The event included about 20 women, mostly professionals in business attire. Jamie introduced Amanda as a new client exploring professional presentation options. For 2 hours, Amanda navigated conversations, acutely aware of subtle dynamics she had never noticed as Pablo. Women spoke over her. Men who arrived later commanded attention effortlessly, and everyone seemed to comment on her appearance before asking about her work. You mentioned you're an attorney, one woman said. What kind of law do you practice? Corporate and employment law, Amanda answered, using the modulated voice Jamie had helped her develop. How interesting. You must have to be extra assertive in court. Do you find it challenging to be taken seriously? The question struck Amanda forcefully. No one had ever asked Pablo if he found it challenging to be taken seriously. I focus on preparation and expertise, Amanda replied carefully. But yes, there are additional hurdles. By the end of the evening, Amanda had collected insights that Pablo could never have gained through research alone. The consistent underestimation, the different conversational patterns, the constant awareness of physical presence, all formed a picture of workplace dynamics that suddenly made the Torres case crystal clear. The next morning, Pablo requested a meeting with Richard and the other partners handling the Harrison case. I've completed my investigation, Pablo announced, placing a detailed report on the conference table. Harrison Fashion Group violated anti-discrimination laws. They began documenting performance issues within days of Torres beginning to present as female, applied standards to her that weren't applied to other employees, and created a hostile work environment. Richard stared in disbelief. That's not what Harrison told us. It's what the evidence shows, Pablo countered. I've interviewed 15 current and former employees. The pattern is clear. We should advise settlement immediately. Harrison won't like this, one partner muttered. Harrison hired us for legal counsel, not to rubber stamp discrimination, Pablo responded firmly. We have an ethical obligation to advise them correctly. Richard studied Pablo with narrowed eyes. You seem personally invested in this case. I'm invested in doing my job properly, Pablo replied. I've researched this thoroughly, including consulting with specialists in gender identity issues to understand the full context. After tense discussion, the partnership agreed to recommend settlement. Richard assigned Pablo to deliver the news to Charles Harrison personally. Later that afternoon, Pablo sat across from Harrison in the CEO's opulent office.
"You're telling me to capitulate?"
Harrison demanded, after hearing Pablo's recommendation.
"I'm advising you to settle quickly and implement proper diversity training,"
Pablo clarified.
"The evidence doesn't support your position. If this reaches court, you'll lose, and the damages could be substantial."
Harrison's face flushed with anger.
"We've been clients for 15 years. I expected loyalty. My loyalty is to providing sound legal advice,"
Pablo countered.
"Settling this case and addressing the underlying issues is your best option legally and financially."
After Harrison reluctantly agreed to settlement talks, Pablo returned to his office to find Richard waiting.
"Harrison called me,"
Richard said without preamble. "He questioned your objectivity, said you seemed personally invested in Torres's side." Pablo maintained a neutral expression. "I'm invested in facts and law. The facts don't support Harrison's position. He's our biggest client, which is why we owe him honest counsel, not what he wants to hear." Richard sighed heavily. "Handle the settlement negotiations, but after this case, we need to discuss your future assignments." The settlement negotiations proceeded over the next 2 weeks. Throughout, Pablo continued evening sessions with Jamie, developing Amanda's professional presence. What had begun as research had evolved into something more personal, a journey of discovery that Pablo wasn't ready to end. During a particularly insightful session, Jamie paused while helping adjust Amanda's navy blue dress. "You've continued these sessions well beyond what your case research requires," Jamie observed quietly. "May I ask why?" Amanda met Jamie's gaze in the mirror. "Because being Amanda feels right, in a way I never expected. When I'm her, everything makes sense." Jamie nodded, understanding. "Many clients discover that gender exploration reveals truths they hadn't recognized about themselves." "I think I might be transgender," Amanda whispered, the words both terrifying and freeing. "That's something only you can determine," Jamie replied gently, "but I'm here to support you in exploring that possibility." The settlement with Gabrielle Torres concluded successfully, with Harrison Fashion Group agreeing to substantial compensation, policy changes, and company-wide diversity training. Pablo insisted on including provisions for protecting transgender employees specifically. After finalizing the settlement, Pablo requested a meeting with the firm's partners. He arrived early, taking time in his office to center himself before what would be the most important presentation of his career. The conference room filled with partners curious about the unusual all-hands meeting. Richard entered last, face tense with irritation. "Thank you all for coming," Pablo began, standing confidently at the head of the table in his perfectly tailored charcoal suit and burgundy tie. "The Torres case has concluded successfully, but it revealed significant issues in how our firm approaches diversity and inclusion." Pablo distributed a detailed proposal. "This outlines my recommendation for establishing a diversity and inclusion office within the firm, with dedicated partners overseeing implementation of best practices." Richard frowned. "That's not why we called this meeting. We need to discuss your handling of the Harrison account." "With respect, Richard," Pablo interrupted calmly. "These issues are connected. Our handling of the Harrison case exposed our firm's limitations in understanding diverse perspectives. We need to address this systematically." Murmurs of both agreement and skepticism rippled through the room. "Furthermore," Pablo continued, "I'm volunteering to head this initiative, drawing on extensive research I've conducted over the past month."
You're a corporate attorney, not a diversity consultant,
one partner objected.
which is why I've taken steps to understand these issues thoroughly,
Pablo replied.
including consulting with specialists in gender identity.
Pablo paused, heart pounding.
I also have a personal announcement. After considerable reflection and consultation with medical professionals, I've come to understand that I am transgender. I will be transitioning and presenting as female professionally beginning next month.
Stunned silence filled the room.
My name will be Amanda Reyes, and I would appreciate your support during this transition. My legal expertise remains unchanged, but my perspective has been enhanced by this personal journey.
Richard's face had drained of color.
This is unexpected.
For me as well, Amanda acknowledged with a small smile. But it's authentic, and it makes me uniquely qualified to lead our diversity initiatives while maintaining my corporate practice. The discussion that followed was intense, but surprisingly supportive. Several partners immediately endorsed the diversity initiative, while others asked thoughtful questions about Amanda's transition and how the firm could support her. By meeting's end, the partners had provisionally approved both the diversity office and Amanda's leadership role, pending formal vote at the next partnership meeting. 3 months later, Amanda Reyes sat in her office reviewing diversity training materials. Her brown hair, now growing out naturally, was styled in the same professional bob she had first worn as a wig. Her emerald green wrap dress complemented her figure, and modest pearl jewelry added a touch of elegance. A knock at the door interrupted her concentration. "Come in," she called. Charles Harrison entered, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Ms. Reyes," he began formally, "I wanted to personally thank you for the diversity training your team conducted last week. It was educational." Amanda smiled. "I'm glad you found it valuable, Mr. Harrison." "I also owe you an apology," Harrison continued. "I questioned your handling of the Torres case. In retrospect, your counsel was exactly what we needed." "We all have blind spots," Amanda replied. "The important thing is addressing them when they're revealed." Harrison nodded. "Harrison Fashion Group would like to retain your services specifically for ongoing diversity consultation, in addition to our regular legal work." After Harrison departed, Amanda turned to the window, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. What had begun as case research had revealed her authentic self. Now she was using that discovery to create meaningful change, both personally and professionally. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jamie. "Lunch today to celebrate 3 months of Amanda?" Amanda smiled and replied affirmatively. The sapphire blue dress she'd wear was already hanging in her office closet. The woman who would wear it had always existed, waiting to be recognized. Now that she had stepped forward, Amanda knew she would never step back. As she gathered materials for her next meeting, Amanda passed the former nameplate that had once adorned her door. Pablo Reyes, Senior Partner, had been replaced with Amanda Reyes, Senior Partner and Chief Diversity Officer. The new title reflected not just a name change, but a transformation of purpose, using her unique experience to ensure others would face fewer barriers on their own journeys toward authenticity. The weight of responsibility still pressed on her shoulders, but now it was a weight she carried proudly, in perfect alignment with who she truly was. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!